Hello, it is still February 3rd, 2016, Wednesday, comic book day. In the first part, we reviewed a whole bunch of Marvel books, but there was one hero missing. And so this part, we are reviewing just the Spider-Man books that I picked up this week. There's 3 of them in total, and we are getting started with Amazing Spider-Man issue number 7. Yeah, 7? Yeah, I was covering it. Issue 007 right there. Continuing the storyline, started in the last issue with a Mr. Negative arc, and we begin this issue with Mr. Negative kidnapping Peter Parker, attempting to mind control him so he can use the Shade, which is Mr. Negative's new mind control drug, on this guy, whose name is Huang Hao, I think. My Chinese pronunciation is not the best, but Huang Hao, who's being presented with the Humanitarian Award. Mr. Negative wants Huang Hao under his influence, and he wants Peter to do that for him. Luckily, Peter can't actually be mind controlled by Mr. Negative because he already was once, and it doesn't work twice, which gives Peter the upper hand, as he can make believe, he can pretend to be mind controlled in order to deceive Mr. Negative while he goes on his real plan of Spider-Man to stop him. And while Peter has the upper hand on his Spider-Man side of his life, things are falling through on the Peter Parker side of his life, as he's driving a rift between him and his employees, and the rift is sure to bite him in the ass in later issues, as we see by the end of this one. The rest of the book is pretty much all Spider-Man action, as Spidey tries to track down Mr. Negative by placing a tracker on Cloak, who has been mind controlled, and this results in a fight between Spider-Man and Negative, Cloak, and Dagger inside the warehouse where Mr. Negative is producing the Shade. And it's a pretty good fight. I mean, it's the last third of the issue, last act, pretty much. It's Spider-Man. It's continuing what it has been. Art is still amazing, from the Alex Ross covers to the interiors, some of which I showed you. I just really like Mr. Negative. I like the effect that he has with the all-white suit and everything, and just kind of flat there. I still think Spider-Man looks great, just the new costume and everything, and all different light sources. Yeah, just continuing to be a pretty fun book. And it introduces some really good dramatic tension in this issue, because Peter finally feels kind of in control about everything. He seems to think that he has all the cards, when he's, the dramatic tension is that we as the reader are aware that he is still letting things slip through, and those things will, get bigger and eventually bite him on the ass, because he can't be everywhere at once. He can't even really be Peter Parker and Spider-Man all at once. So there we have with that. And we have a few more things I didn't want to bring up because they're kind of spoilery and, lead to future storylines. A character appears in this new universe for the first time, who nobody, I think, expected to see back in these books. So that's pretty cool. And yeah, that's about it for Amazing Spider-Man issue number 7. Moving right on to Spidey, issue number 4? Issue number 3, my bad. Issue number 3, and this continues to just be a really fun, solid series of one-shots. As you can tell from the cover, this one has Spider-Man versus the Lizard. Or more accurately, lots of tiny lizards, and then eventually facing off with Kurt Connors himself. But aside from that, this also deals with Peter maintaining a balance between his work life and Spider-Man life. This is a younger Peter, still in school, so instead of running a multi-million-dollar tech corporation, this Peter is balancing being Spider-Man and fighting guys like Mysterio and the Lizard with being a high school student, and trying to keep his grades up by studying with Gwen, and eventually trying to help Aunt May out with the bills and find a job, which he starts doing pizza delivery, and eventually we all know where Peter Parker ends up working, so we find out about that in this issue too. But yeah, these are one-shots. They don't have time to really create a whole lot of story, a whole lot of plot, but they're snack size. These are really snack, kind of candy, bite-sized comic books, and they're really enjoyable. They're really well done Spider-Man stories, in spite of their length. You get a lot of character, you get a lot of soul. You have Peter Parker's inner monologue, and you see how he acts differently in school than as Spider-Man. In school, he lets himself get beat up because he doesn't want to disturb the peace. He wants to maintain that balance, while as Spider-Man, he's quipping and fighting and just getting on everyone's nerves, because that's what he does as Spider-Man. He gets on villains' nerves. I still really enjoy the art, really colorful and cartoony, and I quite like colorful, cartoony things, so I really like it. Again, there's really not much to chew on this book. It's just a really fun, simple Spider-Man story, and I'm glad that it's coming out. And the last Spider-Man book I picked up this week is, confusingly enough, Spider-Man #1. Not Peter Parker, but Miles Morales, as we see him adjust to the new Marvel Universe as the second Spider-Man. We start with a pretty engaging in medias res thing. The Avengers defeated, New York partially destroyed, and Miles Morales is the only hero left to stand up against I can't read backwards. Blackheart, who is the son of Mephisto, big demon guy, and Miles is the only one who can stop him. How we get there is a little more subdued. We start with Miles as Miles, not as Spider-Man, getting rejected by a girl, getting a call from his mother about bad grades, and generally he's just letting his Miles Morales life kind of slip by the wayside as he's paying way more attention to being Spider-Man. But luckily Miles isn't alone. Of course, he has Genk, or Genki. I've never heard his name pronounced. I've only read it. So it could go either way, I guess. But we have Miles' best friend Genk, or Genki. I'm just going to say Genk because it's a syllable shorter. So Miles' friends Genk try and cheer him up after the rejection. Miles' father Jefferson is back in the picture and seems to be really supportive. I'm not clear if he knows that Miles is Spider-Man in this new continuity, but either way, he seems to be way more supporting of Miles, or not supporting, because his mother's also supportive, but I guess way more lenient with Miles than his mother is. And then we quickly enough do jump right back into the Spider-Man stuff, as Miles has to duck out of school to chase a fire truck heading towards an explosion, which leads us back to the cold open of the book with Miles facing Blackheart. All in all, pretty standard issue, not much to complain about, nothing really incredible. It's nice getting a book with Miles in it. I've missed him. I like the character. He's just as good here. Still written by Brian Michael Bendis. Still his creator, the person who knows him best in a way. So we're still getting really good Miles stuff. Really good Miles and Genk dialogue. I like their exchange. They seem like really believable, organic friends who really have, really watching each other's backs. I like the call between Miles' mom and Miles and Jefferson and the dad and all that. I like their family interaction here, because, again, it reads as real. And Miles' Spider-Man is just entertaining. He's a great Spider-Man. He's exciting to watch. He's cool looking with the cool costume and everything. And I do like the art in this book quite a lot, even though it's a bit brown in this issue. So hopefully there's more color going forward. But overall, yeah, Spider-Man #1, if you're interested in Miles Morales, not a bad place to start. And that is it for this part of this week's comic book reviews. One more part to go where I will cover Batman and Paper Girls, so if you're interested in any of those, stay tuned. If not, well, thank you for watching this video. I hope that you do join me for some more comic book reviews. If you're just here for Marvel stuff, I'm sure there'll be some next week. If you like this video, please like it, subscribe if you want to, keep in touch or whatever with these reviews, and I review movies and other stuff too, so if you're interested in that, go check that out. Any comments, questions, book recommendations, anything you want to discuss, leave them in the comments and I will try and get to them. And yeah, that's that. So thank you for watching, and I hope that you do join me for some more comic book reviews.